Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an email that was sent from a subscriber. And this email, guys, this guy's story, hands down, is probably going to be one of the most memorable stories of 2023. I'm saying this right now. And definitely one of the more memorable and entertaining ones you guys are going to hear in a while. This story is about a guy. He is 41 years old. He's been watching the channel now for about a year. And he shares his story about events that happened 16 years ago where he had probably the shortest marriage in history. A marriage that probably lasted at best 12 hours. You're going to see, guys, what happens that causes marriage to end that quickly and how unfortunate it is for him and anybody that goes through something like this. You're going to see in this story, guys, how this guy was with his girlfriend who became his 11-hour, 12-hour wife for 5 years. And he truly didn't see any red flags, thought she was amazing, all that, married her. And you're also going to see how she betrayed him with the last person he ever thought that would betray him. And I'm doing this one, guys, as an example, how I tell you all the time, for your relationship, guys, you got to spend years getting to know a girl. And I do mean years. And even then, after 5 years like he did, and living with her, he still was shocked and blindsided by her actions. And also, guys, how in life, sometimes people you trust the most, like a best friend or a brother in this story, can betray you. And it's just really unfortunate how at the end of the day, human beings are always going to be human beings first. And they're susceptible to the most ugly side of human nature known to man. And it doesn't make a difference if they're your best friend, your cousin, your brother, your father, your son. Doesn't make a difference. And it's not excusable. I'm just saying it's going to happen. So that is a very good one to go over here, guys, because at the end, he's looking for some advice from me as well as you guys as how he handles the situation in present day. Because you're going to see there was the events that went down 16 years ago and how they have now caught up with him in the present day, and he's on the fence on how he handles the situation, which you guys will see more. So we're going to be having some audience participation today because this guy definitely needs counsel. So definitely listen to this to the end. You'll definitely find it very interesting, entertaining, and memorable. So it starts off, he says here, "Hello, SSM. I've been watching your channel for about a year now, and I think I might have the most jacked up story to share." Bro, I think that's pretty fair assessment. It's about my ex-wife, my brother, my parents, and potentially the shortest marriage in history. Even if this doesn't make it to a video, I'm still waiting for Jerry Springer to come knocking on my door. But until then, I've been living my best life, and now that I find myself at a crossroads. I think I'm too close to the problem, so I could use some advice. I don't know how this story has not gone Jerry Springer. I kid you not. And by the way, guys, there's going to be some of you that are going to say, this is bullshit. This is creative writing. Why isn't this on Reddit? I don't think that's the case. Because remember, truth indeed is truly stranger than fiction. And we're in Sodom and Gomorrah 2.0. At the moment, I'm 41 years old, and I have a career that I love and nice life by most standards. I'm not rich, but I'm happy and single. It took a long time to get to a place of peace in my life, but like Murphy's Law states, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. My story happened when I was 25 years old and getting married to a woman that I had been dating for nearly 5 years. 5 years. That's a long time to get to know somebody, and still, they can shock you. Before I get into what happened, I want to share a little about the guy I looked up to for most of my life, my older brother Dan. He was 2 years older than me and the coolest guy I ever knew. I idolized him throughout my childhood like younger brothers tend to do. He was everything I wanted to be. Strong, confident, and good with the ladies. No matter what was going on in my life, he was the one person I trusted above all others. Let's remember this part. I was a regular kid and had a few really good friends, but in my entire life, I never put as much blind faith in another person as I did Dan. I don't mean to sound like a fanboy, but it's important to understand just how much I love my brother. I know it sounds cliche, but if he asked me to help hiding a body, I would have been there and with a shovel in my hand. Bro, I get it. Growing up, I had an older cousin that I thought the same thing about. Literally. And unfortunately, I learned the hard way the very ugly side of human nature as I was, I don't need to get into that, but let's just say it was truly my first lesson about human nature, and I learned the hard way, and I never forgot. That even family will turn on you, and even those you thought you trusted the most, loved the most, and never thought would turn on you, and you would have their back no matter what. Our parents, who are still married today, love both of us, but there was never any doubt that my brother was the golden child. That's not to say that our parents ever did anything to make me feel less important. They didn't. What they did do was put a lot more expectations on Dan than they did for me. I'm not sure if it was because he was the oldest child and they were learning along the way, or if it was because he also had a hand in helping raise me. Maybe it was a little bit of both. I can't think of a single time that I felt jealous of my brother or a time that he showed any resentment towards me being the clingy little brother when we were growing up. He always had my back, and he was the first person I went to for advice. Well, that sounds like an awesome situation growing up. It really does. Unfortunately, I know how this thing's going to go. And I want to mention that you guys notice he talks about the parents. The parents are a very important part of this story. How the brother was the golden child, without a shadow of a doubt. And any of you guys who grew up in a household where your parents clearly favored another sibling, a brother, a sister, you can definitely relate to this. I met my ex-wife, Becca, during my second year in college. Without getting too long-winded about my relationship with her, we started dating not long after we met and ended up moving in together after we graduated. I'd never been that guy that believed in the Disney fairy tale movies, but she complimented my life in just about every way that I thought was important. Over 3+ years we lived together, I believed that I found someone I could share my life with and ended up proposing to her after we'd been together for a little more than 4 years. Smack! Smack to the younger you. And I'm saying this with a smile on my face because I don't mean in a harsh way. You were young, and you didn't know any better. And that was the idea. Hey, I'm 24, 25. Hey, been together 5 years. We lived together. Too young. Too young gentlemen, especially in today's world in the 2020s. If you're going to do it, wait until your late 20s, where you're established with your first job or career, building on that, saving money, putting money away, maturing, getting life experience, and spending as much time with her as possible, learning to know what she's like through thick and thin, what her family's like, all that. But even then, you can never be 100% sure, as you guys are about to see. At the time, I wasn't aware of what red flags were. But looking back, now that I've educated myself, she didn't have any. We ended up moving back to a city that was less than 1 hour from my hometown in the northeast corner of Texas. I don't want to share the name of the city in case someone I know hears the story. Probably a good idea. You wouldn't believe how many people now have watched my channel or members of my channel, and people have shared their stories and then have emailed me letting me know that somehow somebody they talked about 20 years ago found the story. Kid you not. This is why it's good to not share your name, not too much about your profession, your description, that type of stuff. Anyway, we both end up decent jobs in our fields, and we're building a nice life together. My parents loved Becca and how well she treated me. I really thought that I had the life all figured out. Looking back, I still have no idea how it all fell apart. But like most mysteries in life, there doesn't seem to be an easy answer. We were married on a Sunday in the middle of 2006 at around 2 p.m. The wedding was at my family's church and had the reception at my parents' house. Most of my childhood friends were there, and Becca's closest friends and family came for the weekend. Becca's best friend was her maid of honor, and it was a no-brainer that my big brother was my best man. The day was perfect. Both of our families were getting along without exception, and it was one of the most fun days I've ever had. I think that was part of the problem. I had a little too much fun and had way too much to drink. Between the stress of the wedding and trying to be the man of the hour, I am getting pretty drunk at the party and passed out a little before 8 p.m. I never got it why guys or gals at their wedding, the bride or the groom, get piss-ass drunk. You know what I mean? Like, do that the next day or do it that day. Everybody's watching you. You got to be on your best behavior. A few drinks is one thing, but getting that plastered, I never got it. When I went to bed, the party was still going strong, and I didn't want to ruin our wedding night, so I decided to go sleep off some of the alcohol, so I'd be able to end the day on a good note. Becca said she would wake me up when she came to bed so we could consummate our marriage, and was understanding that I had a bit too much to drink. I woke up at 1:17 a.m. That time will forever be seared in my brain. The first thing I noticed was Becca wasn't in bed with me and that she didn't wake me up. Huh? Where's Becca? I ended up getting out of bed to see where she was. The reception had been over by then, and I didn't understand why she wasn't sleeping with me. I was heading downstairs to the living room, thinking she might have fallen asleep on the couch. But when I was walking past my brother's room, I heard the unmistakable sounds of someone having sex. I mentioned before that my brother was good with the ladies, and I didn't think anything about it. I figured he probably hooked up with someone at the reception, and I went downstairs to find Becca. I'm sure you already figured out what I'm about to say. But at the time, I just couldn't imagine how quickly my life was about to change. So, who's brother hooking up with? Must be the maid of honor. Must have been a bridesmaid. Must have been one of Becca's hot young mid-20s friends because, well, who else would it be? When I made it downstairs, I looked everywhere I thought she would be, and it never crossed my mind what I was about to find out. Of course, she wasn't sleeping on the couch or any of the other rooms. I can still remember how much I didn't want to believe what was becoming painfully obvious. There was no way that my wife of 11 hours was doing that to me. I know now that it was stupid, but I made a second circuit around the house just to be sure that she wasn't asleep somewhere in the house. His gut is telling him something's up, but understandably, he does not want to believe it, and that's understandable. I didn't want to believe what all the evidence was telling me, but I ended up going back to my brother's room and stood outside of his door, trying to convince myself that this wasn't happening. It was when I heard Becca's voice that I completely lost my mind. Holy freaking shit. I tried to open his door, but it was locked, and as soon as I tried to open the door, I could hear people scrambling in the room. I'm not sure if it was the residual alcohol or my fury, but I kicked the door open, and until the day I die, I'll never forget the image that was seared into my brain. On the bed was my brother, my wife of less than 12 hours, and her best friend, all naked and watching me in complete shock. Wife of 11 hours, in bed with your bro and the maid of honor, all getting it on. You're telling me the brother couldn't have hooked up with some other chick? Well, he had another chick, and your wife is in there? Talk about pieces of garbage. Your brother, the guy you idolized, your best friend, the guy that you would take a bullet for. That would, you know what I mean? Can't make this shit up. It was too much for my brain to process, and it took a few years and more hours of counseling than I want to admit to even be able to write about this. But I ran into the room and jumped on my brother and gave him the worst beating I ever could have given anyone into my life. To this day, I still don't have a clear memory of what I did, but it was my dad that pulled me off Dan that saved his life. Bro, nobody listening to this, and the tens of thousands of dudes around the world that are listening to this, including me, can blame you at all for giving him an ass whooping. He deserved it. And I might as well go on to say that somebody else definitely deserved something pretty bad happen too, but I can't say it, and you all know what I'm thinking about. But then again, if he did, he'd be in prison. By the time my dad had pulled me out of the room, the entire household was awake from all the shouting. Becca's parents, my parents, and a couple other guests were watching everything that was going on. Becca was hysterical and crying, trying to apologize and say it was a mistake, and she didn't mean to hurt me. What a load of fucking bullshit. It was a mistake. I'm so sorry. That type of thing. And the waterworks. Then he wouldn't have done it. And I don't want to hear about the alcohol. No. And by the way, as I was reading this morning with my coffee, with my cat sitting on my lap, I don't buy for a second that this was just something that just happened. I think Becca and the brother obviously liked each other. There was definitely an attraction there, as if something wasn't going on prior to this. I hope not, but it seems a little suspicious to me that just suddenly like that, you know what I mean? My brother was trying to tell me how sorry he was and he never meant it for it to happen, and my dad was doing his best to keep me from offing my brother. That morning is a part of my memory that's still a little fuzzy. I'm surprised you haven't blocked that out because it's such a traumatic experience. Holy shit, man. I'm so sorry that happened to you. Your brother, your wife. Now, we're not done yet in terms of the betrayal department, guys. We're just getting started here with the drama. There was a lot more shouting and chaos for the rest of the morning. But it was when my parents got me calmed down a little and told me that I had to forgive my brother because it was just a stupid mistake, that I flipped out on them as well. Just a stupid mistake? Yeah, sure. This was well planned. They're all grown-ass adults acting, she's married, the brother, a mistake. Bullshit. And I like to point out that he said that his brother is very good with the ladies. So why did he choose his wife? Now, who's the bigger a-hole here, the wife or the brother? Obviously, the brother. Becca and her friend were being read the riot act by her parents, and my brother was doing his best thing he could do, staying completely out of my sight. It was then I realized that my parents expected me to forgive my brother for what he did to me, that I knew I had to be anywhere but where I was. Instead of them screaming at him for ruining my life, they were trying to convince me that what he did was just a mistake. Yeah, here's the example who's the most important child, the golden child. He was banging your freaking wife, the ultimate betrayal. They should have been tearing him a new one. After you whipped his ass, your dad should have whipped his ass. And your mom should have smacked him too. And your mom should have smacked your wife. But instead, you gotta let it go. It was just a mistake. Bullshit. You know what they want? They just want to move on from this. They want you to sweep it under the rug like it didn't happen and forgive and forget so they can have a stable family. Not all taking your feelings into consideration. Goodbye, family. Have a nice life. I ended up getting dressed and driving home at around 4 o'clock in the morning after cussing all them out and telling them never to talk to me again. Good for you, brother. Again, nobody here blames you for that. It took about 2 weeks to get the annulment paperwork processed, but my marriage was over the second I opened my brother's door. So I was a married man for approximately 11 and a half hours, and when it was over, I lost my wife, my parents, my brother, the money I spent on the wedding, and the life that I'd be... I lost my wife, my parents, my brother, the money I spent on the wedding and the reception, and the last 5 years of my life. That was the lowest point in my life, and I'd be lying if I didn't admit that I considered driving my car off a bridge several times on the way home. Nobody can blame you for feeling that way, man. That is terrible. Let's review. His brother, best friend, guy idolized, thought he had his back no matter what. His parents betrayed him right then and there. They totally betrayed him. And of course, the woman that he married was in love with 5 years with her, who didn't see one single red flag. I mean, it's amazing that he's still here today. I mean, what's next? Next day he loses his job and the cat or dog dies? I mean, Jesus. This poor bastard here. But this goes to show you what you're about to see. Guys can go through hell and persevere and come out on the other end. I'm thankful that I didn't, but that's the level of pain that is most difficult to put into words. Out of everything that happened, the most painful was my brother. I would have taken a bullet for him, and he destroyed my life. That is as low as it can be. He is the worst in the whole thing. Becca and her parents made it to our apartment later in the day and tried to get her to forgive me. Fat chance, honey. But I cussed all of them out. Her for being a WHORE, and her parents for raising one. Then I kicked her out and told her never to speak to me again. It took a few hours for her and her parents to pack her shit, but they left without any much more of an argument. I could tell that her dad was devastated while her mom was doing what she could to comfort her. At least I didn't have to sue her to get the wedding rings back. Her dad got them from her and apologized to me before they left. Well, at least somebody, your 11.5-hour father-in-law at least had some level of decency to apologize to you, got the ring back for you and all that. It would have been nice if they cut you a check for what you contributed to the wedding. That would have been nice. But still, should have sued her ass for part of the wedding. The next month was probably the worst of my entire life. As you can imagine, I was pretty depressed. My family was still constantly trying to contact me, and I had to get a new phone number to get the calls to stop. That's when they started showing up to my apartment, but I refused to open the door. After about 3 weeks of that, they finally stopped, but had left a letter taped to my door trying to rationalize what my brother had done as a huge drunken mistake. and that he loved me. If that's what you can do to someone you love, I would hate to see what he would do if he didn't like me. So still, your parents are sticking to this thing after 3 weeks of time they could think about things and wonder why you disappeared, and try to rationalize his behavior and get you to sweep it under the rug. If your parents came to you and said, we were wrong, we reacted in the moment and it was a mess, but we are sorry that we took his side, we're sorry we didn't consider your feelings about the matter, he's a son of a bitch for doing that, and we're sincere that they handled it the wrong way, that would be one thing. But still, they're sticking to this whole thing, well, it was a drunken mistake, let it go. No. And another thing is, if his brother showed up, probably with a few bodyguards at this point, and said, I'm so sorry, what I did was wrong, it was your wife, I don't expect you to ever forget, but if you can forgive me and all that, and you know what I mean? I would never expect this guy to forget or forgive anytime soon. But the problem is, when somebody does you wrong so bad, if you go around with hate in your heart forever, which one can understand, that poisons you. One has to forgive for you, not for those assholes. Let the Lord forgive them on that level. I just don't want people walking around with hate in their heart and having it poison them, poison their life. But the parents, still after that, they're choosing the brother through their actions. It took a long time to get my life to any kind of normal. But thanks to a few years of counseling, I was able to put myself back together. Good for you, man. That shows the strength that you have to do that after all that. Because you lost your whole world. Your wife of 11 hours. Your brother, your family. You were on your own. And it shows in terms of a guy saying, you know what? It's better to be alone than to have those assholes in my life. This is the extreme case. I think it goes without saying that the idea of any committed relationship were out of the question, and I've had a good life with a solid group of friends that I hang out with. That was 16 years ago, and until September of 2022, I hadn't talked to anyone in the family. Damn, dude, 16 years you haven't talked to them. I don't blame you, and I'm glad you have a good life and good friend group and all that, and I, to no surprise, understand why you haven't had a relationship since. I cut them out of my life so completely that when I did think about them, it was like remembering someone you used to know who had died. It was in September, this September, guys, that my mom came to see me to let me know that my brother had pancreatic cancer and didn't have long to live. Wow. Talk about karma. Because your bro, you said he's 2 years older than you, and you're 41, so therefore he's 43. Jeez, a year or two younger than me. Pancreatic cancer. I'm not sure how pancreatic cancer works. I can Google this when I'm done this here, but it seems like that's something that happens later on in life. He's in his early 40s. All this life to live, and he's a goner. She said he wanted to see me one last time so he could apologize to me. I guess I could have been a better man, but I'm not. Mostly I'm a broken man being held together with duct tape. I told my mom that I hope he burned in hell before kicking her out. Let's just say that she wasn't very happy, but shit happens. I don't, that's tough, that's harsh, but you know what? I don't blame you, and I ain't gonna judge, and I'm sure a lot of guys here watching don't blame you. My brother Dan died on November 21st, 2022. As angry as I was, I still went to his funeral, and that landed me at the crossroads I'm in right now. I had loved my brother even when I hated him. I don't regret not speaking to him again because I know it wouldn't have gone well for either of us. He destroyed any relationship that we had by his own actions. I figured I would go to the service, pay my last respects, and get the hell out of town with minimal contact with people that used to be my parents. But Murphy's Law strikes again. There is no way in hell that you're going to be able to go to that funeral, and even though you loved him, you hated him, but you loved him because he was your bro and all that, and it was a whole whirlwind of emotions, and you didn't want to see him, still you went there to pay your respects and probably say goodbye. There's no way you're going to that funeral out talking to somebody. And oh boy, guys, here's the ending you did not see coming. And if you did see it coming, good for you, because I didn't see this coming until right now. When I got there, my parents tried to talk to me, but I mostly brushed them off, but not before my dad handed me an envelope that had my name on it. If the day wasn't already bad enough, you guessed it, Becca was there too. Huh. Why is Becca there? Nothing else better to do that day? She happens to be there? Oh no. She was sitting with my parents and kept looking at me. Even after 16 years, it felt like she was stabbing me in the chest with a knife. I ended up opening the envelope that my dad handed to me, and it was a letter from my brother. There was the usual begging for forgiveness and talking about how sorry he was, but it was the last part of the letter that got my head pretty effed up right now. Apparently, Becca got pregnant on our wedding day and had a daughter. I almost vomited when I read that part. But when I looked back to where she was sitting, I noticed a young girl sitting beside her. My brother's last wish for me was to be there for his daughter, my niece. Her name is Amanda. Holy shit. I spent the rest of the service completely numb, and when it was over, my parents and Becca introduced me to Amanda. She seemed like a sweet kid. They wanted me to go back to my parents' house to talk, but I couldn't do it. I know I drove home as soon as I left, but I honestly don't remember driving at all. Yeah, I'd be pretty numb in the mind too. I think, as a guy who doesn't drink, I think I would have a couple drinks after that. That was about 3 months ago, and I still haven't talked to anyone. But I can't get this shit out of my head. Out of everyone involved, my niece is a completely innocent victim in all this. I want to be there for her, but I know that seeing her will be a reminder of two people I love most in the world and their betrayal. I know what the right thing to do is, but I'm not sure if it's the right thing for me. I would appreciate some outside perspectives, or maybe someone can spell out a possible silver lining. If this happens to make it to video, and you have my thanks, and if not, no hard feelings. I wish life wasn't so damn cruel. Bro, like I said in the beginning, this is definitely one of the most memorable ones I've done in a while, and will probably be the most memorable one of the year. This will probably be the top 5 of 2023, and we're just in the second week of 2023. I sat there upon reading your story with my coffee and my cat sitting in my lap and the other cat in front of my laptop. You can imagine this scene for you cat people. Pondering and thinking about this whole scenario here and what to say to you, because it's quite the situation. Here's what I think. Your niece, sure, is the innocent one in this story. She didn't do anything wrong. And I'm sure she's a great kid. Your ex, your wife of 11 and a half hours, is a piece of shit, and you have no reason to have anything to do with her ever again. Your parents still, at least to my knowledge, have not sincerely apologized for taking the side of your brother, for just wanting to sweep it all under the rug and say it was a drunken mistake, which is a bunch of crap. Your brother, for what he did, which was so awful, he did want to see it before he died, and he wanted to apologize. I don't blame you for feeling the way you did, but he did want to apologize. He wrote you that letter, again, apologizing, how sorry he was. And I have reason to believe he actually was. But it doesn't change what he did, and it doesn't change what he destroyed. I think what you need to do is come to a point that you can, for you, forgive him. As hard as that is, and it's been 16 years. I'm not saying forgetting or letting it go, but when you come to terms with it, go to a quiet place, out in the woods, by the ocean. This is literally like something out of a movie. Say what you gotta say out there and move on. And live your best life. And you've been living a good life, but we all know this has been built up inside you all this time. And forgive him because he truly meant that. It doesn't change at all what he did. Okay? He was a piece of fucking shit for doing that. But it seemed that he was persistent in his trying to apologize and ask for your forgiveness. And I don't think it was to get anything. I hope not. But your parents still have not come to you apologizing and understanding why what they did is what pushed you away. And so until your parents are willing to truly come to you, if your parents came to you and said, we were wrong, we handled the whole thing wrong, we didn't think about how you felt about the whole thing, us saying it was a mistake was us trying to, basically they're being honest with you, sweep it under the rug so to keep the family stable and all that, they're not even doing that. So honestly, bro, I would continue. If your gut says you want to have anything to do with that family still, I don't blame you at all. And if your gut says I don't want to have anything to do with that girl, even though it's not her fault, I don't blame you at all. Because the reality is this. Yes, it is your brother's child. But guess what? She's a niece. She has her mother, your ex, of 11.5-hour wedding. She has your parents as grandparents. She has your ex-wife of 11.5 hours parents as grandparents. Other family members. She doesn't need you. I'm sure she's heard a lot of stories about you, but she doesn't need you. So you don't, in my opinion, have any obligation to anyone. But if you yourself decide one day, then that's your business. But your brother was the worst to you in this situation. We can all agree there. But it sounds like he truly, at least from the letter and what he said and wanted to see it, that he truly was sorry. I'm being hopeful here. And he died, and he's gone. But I don't want you to walking around the rest of your life with this hate in your heart. I don't blame you for what you did. I would have done the same thing. Because your parents have made any attempts to sincerely try to make amends. So until they're willing to do that, I wouldn't have anything to do with them. And the niece will be just fine. That's what I think. But it was a hell of a story, bro. And all I can say is this. I want you to keep going about your life, doing what you're doing. You're only a few years younger than me. Sounds like you're happy with your life, your friends, all that. But that anger and hatred, that's still down deep. And I want you to try to get rid of that. And maybe it has on many levels, but it's still down there, brewing. And I want that to have you go through a life like that. So keep on doing what you're doing. Try to find some peace. Maybe when you're ready, try to forgive your brother. Say what you got to say out next to a lake or the ocean or something like that, or in fucking Disney World, wherever. I forgive you. I wish you the best. And then, whoosh, and then you can move on. And then do as I say all the guys do. Enjoy your best life. Focus on your grind, your purpose, what makes you happy. Spending time with your friends. Spending time pursuing something that is meaningful to you. Staying in shape, staying healthy, and all that. And I don't blame you at all if you haven't had a relationship in 16 years, and I don't blame you if you don't have them for the rest of your life. Who can blame you? You got your bros, you got your dog, you got your cats, whatever it is, your purpose, your grind, your health, you're good to go. But until your parents are truly willing to admit they're wrong and mistaken it, and it doesn't sound like they have yet, I don't blame you if you have nothing to do with them. But it's not your job to go put yourself in this painful situation for the niece. I'm sure she's a great kid, but it's not your responsibility. Don't be the white knight. You know what happens to white knights. And then remember, no good deed goes unpunished. So I think it's time you'll figure out what to do. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Let this guy know what you think. I'm sure some of you guys will disagree with some of the things I had to say. That's okay, no problem. But seriously, all you guys around the world, this guy, he could use some advice. So by all means, type away. The more you guys comment, the more it's helping a brother out in need. And it will also help other guys that find this video that may have who knows, a similar situation with family they can't forgive and all that, or hurt them so bad and what to do. That could help them. So type away. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.